Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third session in the webinar series, Google Analytics for Agencies. Today's session, Measuring Multi-Channel Media, will show how to measure and analyze the performance of most online media channels and advertising mediums in Google Analytics. I'm your host, Jesse Nichols, and although this session is geared toward agencies, the information presented here will be relevant to most online marketers or web analysts. This session will cover campaign tagging strategies and online media measurement plans, and you'll learn where this data can be found within your Google Analytics account, as well as a few tips on how to find it. This assumes that you are familiar with the new interface with Google Analytics and are comfortable with most of the analysis tools within it, including advanced segments and custom reports. Each of the sessions builds on the learning objectives of sessions before it, so it's possible that you'll need to review the previous sessions in this series in order to grasp all of the concepts presented here. You can find these previous sessions either by searching Analytics for Agencies on YouTube or by following one of the short links on the right side of the page. If you would like to sign up to receive an email reminder before each of the live webinars in this series, you can follow the short link on the left side of the page and complete the registration form. So let's first step back and understand what kinds of questions you could possibly answer by measuring your campaigns with Google Analytics. With traffic coming to your clients' websites from a variety of media sources, each their own measurement terminology and metrics, you can use GA to really level the playing field. So when you're thinking about, what would be the benefit of making sure my campaign and media information get into GA? Well, it's going to help you answer questions in a way that will be more comprehensive and more holistic than trying to measure your marketing efforts with any individual system. So if you're trying to answer questions such as, how can I compare various online marketing efforts against each other using common metrics? How can analyze how ad copy or ad content influences the quality of the visit after they arrive? In general, how can I make my marketing efforts and marketing campaigns more effective and more accountable? It's common for marketers to continually change and optimize their media buying in order to improve performance. But sometimes the answer in great analysis will be to analyze how they've been behaving once they arrive on your site. As a marketer, obviously changing how you buy and where you buy is very important in order to get the optimal results on your marketing efforts. But there's an entire ecosystem after they buy that they're participating in. And it could be that your biggest gains in ROI and improved performance could be changes to what pages they're landing on once they arrive on your website, or even the entire website experience. There could be overhauls or shifts in the way that your website is designed or architected that could greatly improve ROI. On top of that, besides just improving ROI, there's a tremendous amount of analytical tools within GA that tend to be much more powerful than the reporting suites or other marketing, your marketing delivery tools, something like an AdWords or a DoubleClick. So if the end goal is to make your media more accountable to your client's bottom line, then measuring campaigns within Google Analytics will give you more tools to hold your media accountable in order to get the greatest amount of impact possible. So there is one important point in here. I want to make this point before I move on, and it might be obvious to many of you, but I did want to clarify that when we talk about measuring your campaign data within Google Analytics, this is what's known as post-click data. So Google Analytics will only give you data about the visitor after they arrive on your site. It won't provide data on impressions, costs, or cost per click, etc., because that is all what's known as pre-click data. That is data that's owned by the tool through which you served your media. So if you served your media through AdWords, if you search ads through AdWords, or through the Search Center, or through Facebook's marketing tools, all of the data before they get to your site is, in theory, owned and managed by the tool that delivered the actual ad itself. Once they arrive on your site, after the click has happened and they're now visiting your site, this is the data that GA will help you analyze. This is, of course, with the exception of AdWords, which has a special relationship with GA, whereby you can do a deep integration of your AdWords pre-click data with your post-click data within Google Analytics. But again, I just thought it was an important clarification that when we talk about measuring campaigns, this is post-click during the visit and beyond campaign data. So, what is campaign measurement? What do we mean when we talk about measuring campaigns with GA? I think many users of the product assume that it is already measuring campaigns. It has a tremendous amount of information about your incoming traffic. Well, GA does measure all incoming traffic, but it only has 3 default medium types. And again, to reiterate or clarify, medium is the method through which someone gets to your site. So the mediums that GA automatically tracks are things like organic, which is like natural search. When you search something on Google and click on one of the links in the non-advertising links, it's an organic search link. Referral, which is when a site posts to your site. So when one site, a non-search one, links to another. Direct, which is when a client types in your URL directly into the browser. So organic, referral, and direct are really the only 3 default medium through which GA detects. And if you think about it, that's really the only 3 natural types of ways that someone can arrive on your site. Either it's linked to from within some sort of search device, it's linked within some sort of page, or the person came there directly. There's no indication to Google Analytics that beyond that, right? There's no indication that it was a paid link and not a direct one. All it knows, or a paid link as opposed to a free one, all GA knows is that a visitor arrived through some sort of blue link. So without special tags or campaign tags, all traffic will come through as one of these 3 mediums, whether or not it's paid. All GA sees is that the traffic came. It has no way of automatically detecting whether or not you paid for it. And moreover, even if we could properly identify the medium, there is other information that simply isn't sent to GA at all, such as the name of the campaign or description of the ad copy you used. So these are helpful descriptions about a visitor that you can analyze by, but they are not automatically fed to GA. There's nothing about that visitor that brings along this information. So what campaign measurement in Google Analytics is doing is providing additional context about visitor manually, so that when you do later analysis, you have a more robust understanding of how to segment your visitors. So when we say campaign measurement, we're talking about adding tags to your destination URLs. Online advertising, no surprise to anyone on this webinar, most likely, all done through crafting an ad, choosing a medium like search or social or what have you, and then sending it to a specific page on your site through a destination URL. So again, when you add these tags, and we'll show examples, many examples of what these look like, they have to be formatted carefully in a certain way, and when GA sees a visitor coming with those tags on the URL, it automatically interprets the data in the right place. Now, there are options available within AdWords to automatically tag. But that's the only system in which you'll not need to manually place tags in your URLs, and you will make sure that's set up correctly. So you might need to refer to the Help Center for more information on that. And we'll be referring to how to construct these URLs throughout this webinar as well as beyond. But there are short links here to URL builders online. Our traditional analytics URL builder is linked to here from the left. However, if you want to see the bulk URL builder that I'll be showing in just a little bit, to help you build many URLs at one time, you can use this short link here on the right. Now, neither of these tools are certified in the sense that you will still need to test these on your site to make sure they're not changing or breaking your links. But by and large, they work for a vast majority of the websites out there, and it's recommended that you test any changes that you'll be making to the code. So what to do? Well, we created these tags that, again, you can add to URL to tell GA where the traffic came from, through what medium, and to include other helpful information like campaign and ad content. Again, the important point is that every visitor you want measured with campaign information must come tagged URL. And if you're sending visitors through AdWords, you can use auto tagging. And what are you doing with these tags? You're generally writing certain information within GA. So, for example, you'll see here that you can change the source or reset the source that a visitor came from. And you're asking, well, doesn't GA automatically detect the source? Well, we do. But, for example, you may want to put in additional information about the source that wasn't in there otherwise. Or if you're using some sort of ad serving technology, it's not uncommon for the source to look like the redirect that most ad servers use. So I went into the technical details here, but most ad servers such as MediaVesta or DoubleClick use a redirect in order to send users from the ad to the final website, and it's common for GA to pick that up as the source. So the source can be reset. The medium, which again I described as usually or is always set as direct or referral. If you want that to be something else, something more meaningful to you, then you can reset the medium. And the other descriptions, campaign, keywords, ad content, these aren't typically set within GA, so you can set those. Campaigns, keywords, ad content should be pretty familiar to most online marketers, but we'll be reviewing these in greater detail as we go through this. So when we start this process, you're again adding these small parameters that you can recognize. And the way you're doing this is you start with your destination URL, then add a question mark after it, and a question mark kind of defines to GA that we're done with the URL part. This is all additional information. You might need to test different options than a question mark. There are workarounds for this, but you'll need to consult the Help Center for this. If you already have a question mark in your URL, you don't need to add another one. But what you'll do after that is you'll add these parameters one by one, separated by the ampersand signs, little and signs, right? So we'll review these standard tags over and over again, but they are UTM, which, for those who are interested, stands for Urchin Tracking Module. It just defines to GA. When GA sees UTM in the URL, it knows to pick that information up and insert it into the tool. So the tags are UTM source, UTM underscore medium, UTM underscore campaign, term, and content. The 5 tags that GA can recognize, those are the only 5 tags that are available. So note that there are not some tags that would be helpful, such as ad group or a few others, but these are generally these really run the gamut. I'm going to show you how to creatively use these in a way that you'll still be getting quite a bit of the information that you'll need to analyze by. And I do recommend that you test your URLs, and you can test them in a couple of ways, but work with a webmaster. Make sure that your data is not being corrupted and that your website is loading properly when you enter in one of these URLs. But you and the client are obviously assuming all liability for ensuring that they function. So test, test, test. I can't recommend it strongly enough. So a couple of tips before we begin, and I'm going to go through a litany of the most common online media channels and give you a sense of what I recommend they be tagged by. And then I'll show you how I put together a campaign tagging plan, and then we're going to go into the interface. So now that we've established what campaign tagging is, what it means to get GA, to get campaign in GA, what do we need to think about before we start this process? The first is just to be consistent. When you send data into GA, like the campaign name or the ad content name or the term, you change it. It will always be there in that way. And so you'll need to make sure that as you send tags, you want to be very, very consistent, down to the point of using the same case, or because reports are case sensitive, or always using the special codes that present characters like spaces or backslashes or such. Standardized tag names in general will make it much easier to analyze. If you keep the same tagging terminology throughout multiple year campaigns, you'll be able to do multi-year analysis easier, and your reports will be much cleaner in the end. So it's very important that to think through a campaign tagging strategy, as we'll be doing in a second, agree, commit, and then make sure that all stakeholders are also in agreement. So if you're the agency, sure the entire agency team is on board with this, and also make sure that the client understands the campaign strategy you're employing and is also participating when relevant. If you're creating a strategy that will apply to multiple agencies, for example, if you're the media planner and you're strategizing for your search, display, social, and email teams, I want to make sure that they all understand the ecosystem of tags that are going into place. This is not tremendously difficult, but it's tremendously important. The second tip it's something you'll see in action in a little bit, is start by listing your mediums. As a campaign planner or as a campaign strategist, you'll tend to determine what part of the market you want to go after and what media has the greatest penetration in that part of the market, right? So the first step, as you determine your audience, is to figure out where they're at. So it's recommended to use a similar structure when you're doing your campaign tagging in GA. And you'll actually see how campaign tags should actually stitch very nicely into any campaign calendar you may have already created. So when you think about, you put together your media plan, you want to do the same for campaign tagging strategy. Start with what media you're buying on, and we'll kind of move from there. A very important but hard to nail down concept is to plan for future analysis, which is to say you should be inserting some reasonable amount of caution in information into your campaign tags that may not even plan on optimizing by or measuring by initially, but you think may come in handy later. Many examples of this in non-traditional tags, which are around social and email content, where you may be inserting information that, again, is relevant to the first buy, but could be very relevant as you do future analysis. And again, this comes back to the importance of consistency. Finally, you do get something of a hidden freebie as far as a tag with the ad content tag. So we'll review what that means in a little bit, but it's only fitting that your ad content or your creative is also the space within your campaign tags where you have the most free reign to be creative about what kind of information you give GA. Before we go any further, I do want to explicitly state that GA's privacy policy does prohibit any personally identifiable information coming into your Google Analytics account. Well, obviously, first names aren't necessarily personally identifiable, but we do ask no names, no email addresses, social security numbers, credit cards, any personally identifiable information that, especially if the user didn't give it explicitly, but even if they did, if you do need to encrypt somehow, or if you do need to analyze by some sort of individual identifier, our recommendation is to build your own encryption device that assigns an encrypted ID to individual users. You can then pass that to us in some manner and then de-encrypt on your side after you've exported your data. So the idea is that if you needed to identify individuals within your analytics, your Google Analytics reports, you have to encrypt some identifier, pass that along through some sort of tag, campaign, or otherwise, and then this shows up in your reports. You can then export it and unencrypt it and remerge it back into your database. And I will be taking questions by chat throughout the session. There are questions on whether we have any plans to integrate with other devices, such as Microsoft's Ad Center or other ad delivery tools. We don't have any explicit plans right now, and again, a lot of these plans are very dependent upon the media serving tool. So Microsoft would have to come to us with an integration plan, since it's their technology, as would any of the other media serving devices. There are explicit plans in the short term. In the long term, Google is very interested in integrating with many of the other Google properties that deliver ads, such as we have DoubleClick products, YouTube products, all products that can help the advertiser where the data to be integrated in a safe, secure, and obviously individually protected manner. So we're actively looking into those options and trying to understand the benefits and trade-off, but no initial plans in the short term. So let's dive into some recommended campaign tags. And this content will be available for review after the session. So don't worry if it's going a little fast or if you feel like you aren't able to get all the notes you want. This will be recorded. The session will be recorded and available on YouTube afterwards, and you'll also be able to access the presentation and all of the resources I'll be showing today. Paid search. And again, I want to remind you that AdWords does allow for auto tagging, which is to say AdWords automatically adds all of the campaign tags it needs to in a special encrypted ID. And when you have that turned on, you'll need to check your account settings within AdWords to make sure you have it turned on. You will not need to manually tag your ads, and it's recommended that you do not manually tag your ads when you're auto tagging. So again, look into the AdWords Help Center resources if you'd like more information on auto tagging. But for any other paid search tool, this is the recommended naming structure. And again, I'll be showing at the end what a few examples of what URLs will look like. But what's important to note here is that the medium is simple, direct, lowercase, very, very obvious, obviously differentiated from the other media. So for search, I recommend simply CPC. You can call it PC, you can call it paid search, you can call it whatever you want out of GA, but my recommendation personally is CPC. It's simple and it's easy to keep consistent. For us, you'll want to make sure to exclude www and .com, and that's whenever possible, really. And you'll see actually over and over again, I recommend using lowercase. It's not that important, but it's just easier for consistency's sake. And again, what's also important about using something like CPC is that there is a paid search report within GA, and that pulls in any visitor who has tagged. And any visitor who has the medium CPC tagged. For their parameters, and again, these all show up. These are all things you'll add to your URL. You'll have. Strongly recommended you simply use the same campaign name you use within your paid search tool. This is a good place to add your ad group if you wanted to analyze by that. So you would put a combination campaign name and ad group. The word that you'll use will be the actual term that you're bidding on. However, there are dynamic keyword insertion. So again, it would look something like UTM_term equals and then keyword within brackets or YS key if you're bidding on Yahoo. In ad content, you would either insert your headline or headline and maybe a different versions of the body copy, just some sort of ad copy identifier. So this is a straightforward version of a campaign tag. Again, it's very, very important to make sure that at the very least your campaigns are tagged, because they're not tagged as CPC, they will automatically come in as organic. Again, all that GA sees is that it came from what it knows to be a search engine, Google, Bing, Yahoo, or otherwise, and that it came from a keyword. So they will tag it as organic if you're not tagging otherwise. So this simple example, let's move on. The next example is when you're buying display, or that could be a contextually targeted campaign through AdWords. It could be category targeting. It could be a site placement. For me, if it's an ad or a rich media, I will call them all display oftentimes since they have the same goals, but this is up to you. And then if you are bidding with a text ad on a site network, then you may want to indicate that. But again, the idea is be consistent, use lowercase, make it simple, try to condense to one word if possible. It just makes the medium report much nicer. And you'll see examples of what that means in a bit. As source, you will need to actually put in the source or the placement name or the category name if that you're bidding on. Again, if you don't explicitly state the source name, it may override it with something that it assumes the source was, which could be a redirect or could be something else. On top of that, important to note here is that if you use one of these, overwrites all of the information, all of the rest of the information. So, for example, you're bidding NewYorkTimes.com through some tool, and you just want to make sure that the medium says display and not something like referral, which is what it'd be naturally set to. If you've set the medium, it overwrites the source, campaign, term, and content in preparation for those tags. So if you use one tag, use as many as is reasonable. It's certainly medium, source, and campaign. So here we recommend, again, that you give it a simple medium. You give it as explicit as a source as possible, and the campaign name is, of course, up to you. Now, campaigns work. The term campaign works a little differently in media buying and display buying tools than it often does in AdWords. This could be the overall campaign with a big C, and so this could be the general campaign that you're working with. We'll talk about adding additional information that's helpful to analyze by. You may want to give some indication of the flight dates if you're doing a flighted campaign. If it's additional information about a category that you bought, such as the demographic you're going after, those can be helpful for campaign. But for campaign name, the idea here is that, especially when you're buying across many properties and it's one general effort, I try to make sure that all of their campaigns are one name. This will make it easier to analyze by. So if you're buying many sites, if it's under the moniker of one general effort, try to give it one campaign. Now, keyword you'll be using in this session, or in this section, or any of the other sections, mainly because if you enter in a keyword, if you treat it like a freebie spot, like maybe there's additional information you'd like to analyze by, this will open your keyword reports within Google Analytics. So, strongly recommended you avoid the keyword parameter for anything except for search. The ad content, you get a tremendous amount more room with. So make sure that you, of course, identify the ad copy and the version. However, put in a clue as to what format or what size you've used. There are rich media components to it. Indicate those. If a target audience you're going after, if you didn't want to put that in the campaign name, the ad content could be a good place. And the idea is that you're stacking information within ad content so that you can either export it and do analysis later, or as you'll see in some of our examples, you can analyze it right in the interface. And this additional information, this additional content that goes into ad content, this is what I mean by plan for future analysis, right? You're not going to be optimizing by the ad format size within this current campaign. Maybe information that you want to know, performance statistics on these, statistics by format or by size for campaigns. So again, just making sure the information gets in there at some point is going to be helpful to optimize and plan for future campaigns. If you're using auto-tagging in AdWords, much more will actually come in automatically. We'll be talking about optimizing search and display in future sessions, so you'll get a clearer example of exactly what comes through with the AdWords integration. But this can get a tremendous amount of context in itself. Social is obviously a burgeoning area for driving traffic to your site, still, in my opinion, widely either little understood or misunderstood. But as we continue to gather more analysis and more analytics on social efforts and various types of social efforts, we're going to get a more nuanced understanding as to the real value of social visitors. And although they might not always be responsible for last-click conversions, which is to say, when a person visits from a social activity, they may not be in the converting mode right then. And is developing, and there are many tools out there that are developing resources to help you understand how much social networks were influencing buying process much earlier in before the conversion. So just making sure you're getting information in about your social efforts in a coordinated fashion is going to tremendously help analyze what the real value that social is providing my client, right? So again, we've got a lowercase single word medium, so social. This I can recommend keeping out www and .com, but should be Facebook and Twitter. Or if you're doing a lot of work with short links, you could enter the short link URL just to help you keep track of what short links have been most effective, especially if you gave specific short links to specific social influencers and you want to know how many people passed that link to. But the idea here is that it's very important to start attributing individual social efforts to the networks or the pools of people that you're working with. So, I mentioned short link using short link shorteners to compress long URLs. Since when you put together a long string of URL parameters, it can get rather long and sometimes a little ugly. Press using a link shortener. You're already doing this. One important thing to note: when you use a link shortener, in a majority of cases, it looks like they came direct. It does look like it came directly from Twitter or Facebook or what have you. And so in some very rare cases it does, but Google shortener or Bitly or others like that, the traffic looks direct. So if you don't use if you don't use tagged URLs within your short link, you won't get any data about your social efforts. It'll all look like people just came in by typing the URL directly into the URL bar. That said, once you've established the medium and the source, what else can you put in here, right? Because it's not necessarily a campaign, and it's not necessarily an ad or an ad copy. Social acts very differently. So what kind of value can we get from campaign tags so that when you do an analysis in the future, you can get a lot of value from this? Well, one way is if you're promoting a certain object, or if this is within a certain promotion, making sure that the campaign name is set to reflect that. If what you're doing, if the social effort has a certain intent, trying to increase the number of likes or fans or followers or what have you, indicate that so you can measure before and after performance. There's a tremendous amount you could put into the campaign. I recommend, again, be creative but be a little consistent. And with social efforts, it's just important to remember, is there an end business result from the work that I'm doing? And so getting these tags in early is going to give you a sense in the long run if whether or not social had any value, upper funnel, end of funnel, it doesn't matter where the visitors are at in their process. The ad content here, you actually get quite a bit of room to play. So some of the things that I recommend entering into the ad content parameter would be, are you putting this information, are you giving this shortened link to a specific social seed or endorser? Is there a person or set of persons who you hope to spread the message? Can you give some clue about the call to action you put, if there was one, in the social message? You enter in the time and the date that you sent the message, so that you'll know the lifespan of a certain social effort, right? So I'll give you in a bit how to get hourly data from GA, but it could be tremendously helpful to know, well, do my 9 a.m. tweets, are they more effective in getting spread around than my 2 p.m. tweets? And you could even segment that by geography and understand how the time of day or the day of the week affects the spread of information. But again, this doesn't come naturally. You have to enter this information in there. I do want to remind you not to include personally identifiable information. So if you do include information about the social seed or endorser, I would either use some lightly encrypted name or nickname, or simply just put some other indication of who you might have used. Now, I want to remind you that as we don't get any pre-click data, there's no current way to monitor your Facebook or Twitter, for example, profile information within GA. We of course are always working with the social communities to work for integrations, but nothing available right now. To the next media that I'll be discussing are affiliates, and it's not uncommon, obviously, for affiliates to make their way into a part of a media mix. Just again, recommendation, if you weren't already using it, to tag your affiliate campaigns so that not only can they get credit, but you can get a sense of who your highest impact affiliates are. I won't stick on this for too much, because if you have an affiliate program, you likely already have a way of keeping it accountable, but it can be helpful to know if affiliates, what part of the process affiliates are acting within. Here you see email campaigns, and all agencies are responsible for email campaigns, but this is, again, helpful information to give to your client, or if you do email marketing for your clients. And just making sure that you've got a clear medium set. It's very common to leave email out of this media plan, of this campaign tagging plan, but if you want to know the true effectiveness of your email campaigns post-click, after they've opened the email, it's just tremendously important to make sure these tags are in there. And there are also other helpful ways to insert email information. So if you wanted to put the name of your list in there and see how effective that was, or a description of the demographics of that list, great information to have within the source. Again, if you're trying to promote certain products, or if there's a regular newspaper that you send out, or if you feature a product, information for the campaign parameter. And another great candidate for including the time and date that you sent something, so you can monitor the effectiveness of certain times of the day. If you are sending out different email versions, if you are targeting a certain audience, even if you have the same link within different places in a URL. So you'll see, again, in later analysis, that can be very helpful to know, are users clicking on the top link or the bottom link in an email? There are a couple of other recommendations I'll make about these, but this is obviously a very wide and growing and fragmenting space. So whatever you're going to be monitoring, whatever media type you're going to be monitoring, just sure to be consistent. And here are a few others that I've caught as particularly interesting. If you're doing video advertising, local business advertising, if you're doing advertising on things like product search engines like Amazon or eBay or Google Product Search, just making sure to tag those accordingly. And again, you can create your own your campaign plans in a way that reflect your client's needs. Consistency here is the real key, and these are just tips to get you started on choosing whatever to choose, choosing one and sticking with it for the future. So a quick call out to the benefits of linking your AdWords account. There is a special AdWords section within the analytics report suite that work generally if you manually tag your ads, but not with the depth that you can get of an AdWords integration. So there's a very strong integration that comes just with AdWords, such as the ability to get ad group information, match type of their keyword, the specific content network placement even keyword position information. This isn't available through any other means other than auto tagging and linking. So I suggest either speaking to your AdWords account rep if you have one, or if looking into our Help Center resources otherwise to investigate this further. You can also import any goals you've set in GA into AdWords and optimize by those conversions within your AdWords account. So there are many benefits to the integration, and again, I recommend looking into it if you haven't looked into it in a while. Example, tag URLs. This is what it ends up looking like, and this is why link shorteners can be helpful. Not that users tend to look too hard at the destination URLs after you've sent them to your site, but you can see there is the URL itself, then there's the question mark, and then we go into the parameters, UTM medium, source, ampersand, campaign, term, content, and you can see these other ones, they lack the term parameter. They just go right into content because, again, term is only set for setting. So what the URLs should look like, we'll again show a few more examples of this, but as long as you're comfortable and familiar with what's going into these, again, they have to be set exactly as they are here. If you use different parameters for different tracking tools, there are customizations and workarounds available, but you'll need to consult the Help Center as they are not necessarily out of the box or ready-made. So I want to share a quick strategy on what started on a campaign tagging plan. And actually, I'm going to share, let's see here. So I'm going to share a campaign tagging tool, short link that will be available to all after this webinar. You'll get to be sent to a doc that can download. If you download it will let's see here. Have a campaign tagging tool at your disposal, and there we are. We're used to sharing two applications at once. Okay, so Microsoft Excel now. Please chat in if I'm not. So again, you'll get this. You'll get the link to this and the presentation. The presentation link is also right here. I guess it runs you a little bit of the guidance. You get to this link tag generator, which you'll be able to use. Now, this is an example of a fully built-out campaign plan. It's just an example. We'll be analyzing a lot of this information in a little bit. But if I were to go to these URLs, I would be able to a fake campaign hit. Effectively, if I enter this into my browser, it acts the same as if I came through an ad. So be careful when you're testing these. But what I'm going to do is show you how I came up with all these. It looks a little daunting, much easier than it looks. So again, you start with the medium to build out, and for each medium, what sources will I be using? For CPC, Google, Bing, Yahoo. For display, who am I buying on? Let's say YouTube, New Times, .com for these, and .com. Social, right? We have our Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Buzz, etc. Email name, maybe I have U.S. subscribers. Maybe another list would be Europe or UK subscribers. You can see how this process will start to unfold, right? Well, what are my campaigns within search? Let's say ended keywords campaign and a product keywords campaign. Going through this exercise just to give you some practical guidance on what this process might look like. For GA or for display, maybe I'm promoting the new version of Google Analytics, right? So at GAV5, but that would be the same campaign for all my display ads. For Facebook, Twitter, and Buzz, these are going to be much lengthier, but we'll go through some of these a little bit later. And again, you just go out, you go through the process and expand this, and then once you're done, you'll be able to click and drag and bring URLs down. The idea here is you've got a fully built out plan with all of your medium, your sources, campaign names, ad content, keyword when relevant, and destination URL, and you get a full list of URLs ready to use within your ads. What does this end up looking like? Well, let's go into the interface for the last 15 minutes or so and really dive around and see how this data comes about and what you can do with it. The campaign section of the GA blog, and I've actually already been feeding, already fed some campaign data to GA, but there are other campaigns flowing into this. The one we'll be concentrating on will be GA V5, the product words, branded keywords, and industry keywords, as well as a couple of others which we'll come back to. But you'll see that this information starts to show up first all traffic sources, as these are one of your traffic sources. You can see CPC, Twitter PC. This is organic from Twitter. Also have Twitter social, Twitter social, Buzz social. So this information starts to show up in all traffic sources, but where they live are campaigns. Just to start analysis, I usually start with simple segmentation. Again, if this is moving a bit fast, many of the skills within that I'll be, or analysis techniques I'll be using within GA were covered in previous sessions. But within GM, you can do a simple analysis, one report, and just compare how all of your media is comparing to each other. Again, they're only going to show up here if they have a campaign parameter set. You can see about 75% of the traffic that comes to the GA blog has a campaign parameter set. But you could just compare, well, how is my CPC traffic? How are the metrics comparing to display, social, email? You click against your goals, and just understand, well, how do my mediums compare against each other? Or how sources and mediums compare against each other when the campaign tag. What's going on here is you've overwritten the information GA naturally assumes. You've inserted it what you think is beneficial, and the campaign report effectively becomes your analysis sandbox or analysis playground to start doing some really deep analysis. So first, just kind of measuring, well, how are my media doing? Top-down level, just give me the the skinny on what's performing the best. As long as you've set goals properly, and as long as you've assigned some goal value, you'll just get a rich landscape of how your media is performing within a single report. How are my different email lists comparing as well? But that's really just the start of the process, right? So let's say that we wanted to know, so you've got the question answered, how are all my campaigns performing? Using the complex segmentation tool, which was introduced in the last session, you could say, how do all ads stack up against each other across all media, right? Simple reports that give you an overview, but a fairly deep analysis of all your online marketing efforts in one place. A very assuming report, the campaigns report, but just such a rich landscape of data. And then once you've gotten the overview, you can start to drill into individual. Let's start with campaigns, right? So for just the AV5 campaign, you can see I was being on YouTube, New York Times. Here's an example of a category targeting, and I used small colons to separate information. Because there's a consistent medium, these are all showing as such. But for example, if GAV5 included some social efforts, you'd also see that here because it'd all be tagged with the same campaign name. So what do you do with this information? Well, you start segmenting, right? You've picked your segment, which is all the visitors within GAV5, and you start to say, well, how did my ad content within that session or within that campaign compare? And again, I've got the same ads serving on different sites. So this is an analysis of within an entire GAV5 campaign. See how my 250 by 300 ads compared to my skyscraper ads, or if there's a masthead buy on a certain site or a homepage takeover, how did that perform? And again, you've got this rich set of metrics coming through that are easy to analyze by. You can segment how campaigns did by geography, right? By segmenting by region. You can segment how your campaigns did by landing page. If you were sending traffic to different landing pages, here we were just sending them to one. Again, this is tremendously deep analysis and rather hard to get through many of your marketing reporting tools. So with the rich campaign tags, you can drill right down into individual sites. And again, just on YouTube, how did my ads compare? And again, another set of analysis here. Just within YouTube, what were the key demographics and geography demographics, or did YouTube send more visitors? And how were my efforts in garnering new traffic that would eventually return later? Drilling into campaigns, if they're display, again, very quick to get into specifics with that campaign. If it's something like search, then maybe we don't want to start with one of our 3 search campaigns, but we can start by medium and just say, for all of my CPC traffic, how did my CPC traffic compare across Bing and Yahoo? How do keywords compare within this medium, right? So because we've segmented we've taken the certain medium, our segment is medium and CPC. We go, well, what were the best keywords within our CPC efforts? What were the best ads within our CPC efforts? And again, it's kind of analysis. You just wash, rinse, repeat across your different media types. And again, you're not limited to all media. You can say, well, how are do with my media buys? And I'll show you a few different examples of this analysis, but what I encourage you to do is, if you are tagging your campaigns, the idea is to use your campaigns report in a way to pivot on whatever you're interested in. So if you just want to know what your social efforts were like, right? Click on social. We're now looking at just the social campaigns. Oops. Citation, ad content. Now we have a sense of the of certain social efforts. Same email. So the recommendation here is to go to Campaigns Report, select the segment of visitors you want to drill into, and once you've drilled into them, analysis using the complex segmentation tool, which I introduced last time. Example of what it would look like if you were to put your mailing list names in an email within your email tags, right? You wanted to know different email versions and what those effective times were to send them. You've got bottom link, top link, day, a tremendous amount of information right within this. Well, what else do you do? Are you limited to this one report when you start to enter in campaign data? And there's a lot more information that could be beneficial to know about certain campaigns. This is where advanced segments come in. A couple of these, but again, based on the work we did in the last session, you should be able to create advanced segments on your own. But what we could start with is just picking a certain media, create a new custom segment, media, call it media. We save segment, and as you can see by our media, the only media that we'll be looking, the only visitors we'll be looking at are those tagged with the social medium. So what do we want to know about these visitors? Well, we ask, what are the locations? What are my top locations for social media? Top cities, right? To be what pages that social media visitors like to visit. These reports quickly because I want to make sure to get in a few examples. But once you're bidding on your social visitors, you can re-explore the entire report suite. And you can do the same thing if you just want to know what are the experiences like of ad content, visitors who came through certain ad formats, or visitors who came through certain body copy. There is unlimited analysis at your fingertips as long as you can pick on that segment, nail down through advanced segments, and then re-explore the rest of your report suite. The thing I'll show you is if you're using if you're using campaign tags, your custom reports can get much richer as well. You can start to build reports in a way that doesn't require a bunch of complex analysis tools like I was showing you last time using the advanced segments tool or the complex segmentation tool. You can start to build reports that are simple and clean and just give you the information that you need right away. CPC analysis. Because my fake campaign only lasted a few days, we'll change the date range accordingly. what's going on here? Well, I'm just looking at my CPC data, and I'm just looking at how they perform by state. And moreover, I really only care about their goal conversions. But in each state, I've set it up so that I can see, well, what hours of the day or keywords within each state were the most effective. Do word trends change from region to region? Look at what hours of the day were the most effective, and based on the hour, what keywords were people most likely to search? Do people search for different things when they just get to work as opposed to when they're at home? What was the performance of those? And languages as well. So what have I done here? Create a custom report, and again, I showed in detail how to do that last time. And I filtered with just the CPC visitors, and to say, well, what do I want to know about these CPC visitors without having to navigate through the entire analytics report suite. So for just CPC visitors, I want to know these metrics. These are what concern me, and I want to know this about them, right? Our trends here, this is a critical metric or dimension, hour, because it's not something that's accessible within the interface. But just very quick and easy ways to, again, set up the metrics that you want to analyze by and determine how do you want, what do you want to know about CPC visitors. If you know precisely what you are looking for, you can set it up with a custom report. And you can see here in regional trends, you start with region and dive right into what you need to know next. So examples of this would be by ad content. If you just want to know how your ad content is performing, right? What are going on here? You can see metrics we care about, goal conversions. Dimension we're concerned with, ad content, and we're filtering it just to the display medium. When you look at that, just give a simple, crisp, and clear analysis down the line. How are your different ad copies performing, and is it affected at all by format? You can export this, do further analysis on this later. So, I get the best ad content, and even more importantly, so does the type A affect? Oops, excuse me. Today, 9 a.m. or 11 a.m. does that affect the conversion rate and the number of visitors? And you can do that over and over again for things like social media, and you can add additional information such as once this was set, how were the what was the most effective geographies for different sources? Does Twitter work better in some regions than in others? So all said and done, I tried to pack a lot in the last 10 minutes of how to apply this information, but the first step is just getting the campaign information into Google Analytics. Because so little of it comes in naturally, it's tremendously important to be consistent and be adamant about getting good campaign context and good campaign information into the tool. I won't be there to analyze otherwise, so it's recommended that if you haven't been doing it, start today, create a campaign plan, use the campaign tagging tool as needed, but get there and start tagging your campaigns to get a better sense of the rich media landscape that's sending traffic to your client site. With that, I'll be on the line just for another 20 or 30 minutes to take questions if you have any. I'm going to bring it back to the agencies. I'll leave it here. These URLs will help point to the presentation you've seen today, the URL builder I was just showing you, as well as an individual URL builder if you just like to test a few of these. Thanks so much for attending. We look forward to seeing you at the next session in 3 weeks. Do have a great day.